This is by far the darkest episode we've gotten out of part 6, and I'll be honest, this is what I think a lot of us have been waiting for so long. Welcome back to another Lupin discussion. My name is Musical Joker, and today we'll be looking at episode 22, My Mother's Documents. This episode follows Finn, a girl who is eager to find out the mystery around her mother when she was younger and why she left America at age 16. This episode is like any other we've had so far, as it felt like this was an episodic episode that followed the adventure of Finn finding out more about her mother, but it soon turned more mysterious as we come to find out that one of her caretakers mistakes Finn for her mom, Mariel, and mentions things that happened before when Mariel was alive, like not accepting a football friend's calls, or the fact that Mariel was taught by a private tutor, our private tutor, that we have been slowly seeing more of over the course of the season. This was a weird way to continue the plot from the last time we had any sort of plot relevance, as we saw Ari almost dead thanks to Mattia. I find it a bit unlikely that Zenigata would not have seen Lupin by now, but I also welcome this as the idea of Ari's fate is left lingering in our minds rent-free as we continue to see Tomoe's involvement in this episode and her tutoring purpose as well. To continue, Finn finds tapes that have her mom's recording sessions with Tomoe and listens as she puts them on a social media website for noting the mystery around her mom and tutor. Everything ramps up when we see that Lupin and Mattia are listening to her podcast and tracking her down to see what she may know. What also kicks this into high gear is the number of times we see a close-up on Mattia and get some idea of her involvement and connection to Tomoe, as we see Finn mention a sort of hypnosis theory that was placed on her mother for her to forget certain things that were happening to her, but Mattia immediately declines that theory as she must personally know something herself. And we see a hint of that at the very end of this episode, where we see Tomoe mention something about killing your target without fail to Mattia in some sort of flashback fashion. It isn't much, but it does open the doors as to what we will see next time, and hopefully a backstory and answer as to what Tomoe's goal is and why Mattia is doing what she does. What did she get out of killing the politician? Who is Tomoe's real child? What happened on that fateful day? So many questions and yet so little episodes left to answer them. Which is a big concern for me too, as we are left with only a handful of episodes left, but there are many things left to answer, and I do hope that Lupin Part 6 is able to wrap things up nicely without feeling rushed. Aside from the mystery behind Tomoe, I was genuinely interested in the mystery behind Finn's mom, Mariel, as to her connection with both Alan and Sean, the two main boys of interest for Mariel's love. Yet we come to hear that Mariel had Alan's baby out of nowhere, although we saw earlier that Mariel had just been writing all about Sean. So something does not add up here. Before this episode, I thought Tomoe as some sort of helpful teacher past the day of her supposed death, as almost every instance we see Tomoe doing something else that isn't as dark, whether that is fighting Lupin with Mercedes, or being a politician with Hazel, or unless she set up Hazel to be killed, but that is just another theory, and I digress. Anyway, we come to see Mariel's last tape. This time, Mariel did not ignore Sean's call, unlike every other time, but we hear both Sean and Alan talking on the phone. This leads to an altercation involving them both, since we get a sign that Alan did something horrible to Mariel, which is why we saw Tomoe over all the time. Tomoe was doing this to suppress the traumatic event that involved Alan, but it ultimately failed in the end. Mariel reliving the event and falling in pure pain due to it re-emerging, but it ends with a real unexpected event with Alan and Sean. This event involves their death, as we see Mattia look at a video recording of the events that transpired during that phone call where Alan and Sean was in person, and they began to fight until they were shot to death by a random female that, after shooting them, asked if Madame Tomoe was happy with what she did, and then committed suicide on the spot. Just wow. Again, this is the kind of dark stuff I was expecting all along from Part 6. The way that this episode just turned itself around was just crazy, and I dare say one of Part 6's best episodes yet. Not to mention, during all of this, Finn was hurting as well and was helped by Lupin, who decided to travel north to see Finn, with Jigen and Goemon tagging along and playing cards in the back. With adding a quick note, I loved seeing those silly scenes intercut between all of this serious mystery of, adventure. It was, again, nice pace breaker at that, but it still kept me really intrigued throughout the episode. And lastly, we do get to see Lupin and Zenigata finally meeting each other under the Northern Lights, with their discussion being left up to the next episode, which I'm going to assume has something to do with what Ari had in her possession. Being honest here, talking about this episode didn't exactly do it justice, since this is something that you have to watch. This episode has got me more hyped up for what's in store for the last few episodes we will be getting, and hopefully with how dark the outcome is and the mystery around Tomoe just continues with no shed of reason as to why she's doing everything she's doing. Tomoe seems more like an anti-villain of sorts, since she did try to help Mario with her traumatic experience, but at the cost of taking other people's lives due to her failure. It is inexcusable, but only time will tell as what will happen to her and what's her reasoning behind everything she has done so far. What do you guys think? Thank you all so very much for watching, and until next time, farewell.